Do 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 do. I won't do this every episode, I promise.
Yeah, I might not be there if I might not come back from America.
I feel like every time that an episode ends, whether it's like from series 1 or series 2, I just feel like I want to sing the theme tune. But
I don't have that issue.
You don't have
apparently.
that, do you?
No.
I just look at you and it's just a blank face.
I just want to get this done quickly, so this might be a 10-minute episode because Traitor's Final is on as we speak.
And also, there's a storm brewing. In the UK, it is Storm Eowyn. Where are they getting these storm names from? Because Eowyn, the only thing I've been thinking of all of today, because it's the day of the storm, is Eowyn is a character in Lord of the Rings, one of your least favourite films.
That's not true. It's not one of my least favourite films.
It is. You hate
no,
those.
It's not.
You hate that trilogy.
I don't hate them. No, it's just not for me. Like, they're very well done. They're just, yeah. No, I mean, they're not. Can we get on with this? Because
well, I wanted to start by saying that we're doing what we did for episode 1 of series 2, which is this is our instant reaction, not as instant as Mark was like. This is our instant reaction. We've literally just turned off the TV. We've got the recording stuff out. Mark is tapping his knee as I'm speaking, and we are going to give our instant reaction. But before we get there, Mark, let me do a little blurb. It's been a tough week. I've had a really, really tough week. I've had a very griefy week.
we've had a lot on.
We've had a lot on. We've had about 9 appointments for our son. I have run up and down to pharmacies. Somebody forgot to put a piece of disability equipment in our son's bag today to take to school, and then we got a message to say that we had to go to school to drop it off. But I'm not going to mention that.
Who would that be?
Who would that be, Mark? Who would do that on a Friday morning? But yeah, it's been a lot. As I said on social media, when you have a bereavement, you sort of coexist around grief. So you can be incredibly successful in many facets of your life and you can be getting on with things, but at the same time, you can have these moments. And I have had a very griefy week for whatever reason. For the last 45 minutes, just sitting there watching Severance, I have genuinely just not thought about any of those things. I have gone into a different world. And as it was coming to an end, I almost felt, to take it back to the theme, I felt like I was like severed myself in that I had gone through the lift doors, gone somewhere else. And so it really, when Mark in this episode is talking about, you know, Mr. Milchek comes and says, when you became severed, you were talking about grief and you were talking about, you know, the ghost being caught with the ghost of your deceased wife, and you know, all of those things. It really made sense to me why Mark would do that he would take himself away from that grief. So that was my coming around to say that I've just loved every minute of that episode. It has given me so much joy and so much comfort, which telly does for us, as we've often talked about. How did you feel about the episode, Mark?
Good. I mean, I really enjoyed it, and it was, as said, completely outside, which was one of my predictions from last week.
You're right. You're totally right. So should I big this up more? You're looking at me like you really want me to like...
No, I'm just looking at you thinking other theories were absolutely blown out the water. So, you know, it is a case of, you know, you throw enough darts, you're going to hit Twirl 20 at some point.
Totally.
But yes.
And it was a very dark episode as well, not just thematically, but it seemed most of it was at night, wasn't it? Apart from the bit in the diner. Have I got that right?
That seems about right, yeah. I mean, it's a new director that I don't think has directed any episodes of them before, Sam Donovan. And
okay.
There were some shots on there that are absolutely amazing. There's one of Helly running through or walking through the offices at Lumen, taken from outside the offices and seen through glass walls.
There was a lot of I don't know the correct term, but sideways shots where you follow someone from the side. So there was one of Mark walking up the stairs of Lumen, and rather than being from behind, as you would typically see in a shot, you saw it from his left-hand side, and you're following along that parallel line. So yeah, you're right.
I'm looking at his IMDb now. You know, he's done episodes of The Crown. He's done episodes of The Widow, which I feel you might have talked about on the podcast, but I'm not sure.
I can't remember.
Episodes of Humans.
Okay,
episodes of Utopia. So
that's very thematically.
Last Tango in Halifax as well.
Maybe less so.
Skins. So and Secret Diary of a Call Girl. So very big British director, although not one that you would necessarily
know by name.
Yeah, know by name. Yeah.
What's your? I'm very, very positive about this episode. I was very positive about last week. How are you feeling about the narrative and the mystery unfolding?
I think it's clearly an episode where it feels more functional to me than, oh my god, jaw on the floor. It's absolutely there to let us understand what's happened outside of Lumen and then get us on to the main narrative of the season. I mean, there's little droplets of things that are just put in there just to make you think, oh, hang on. Really enjoyed it. Like, like you said, 45 minutes absolutely flew by, and I don't think it's a bad thing for that. I wouldn't say it's my favourite episode of it because it felt functional rather than anything, and that's not a criticism. That's just
It really reminded me of the flash forwards or flash sideways in Lost. That's how it sort of felt like in my brain when I was watching it. It was like, oh, this is so new. I don't know where we're going at. I don't know these sets. I don't know these people. Like, for example, Helena. Some people call her Helena, and I'm calling her
Helly.
Bad Helly. She is fascinating because she is just so cold and so calm and very different to Helly, who we've seen is so headstrong and confident and stubborn, and even the makeup of outie Helly is so pale and is almost vampiric.
I totally agree. Like I said, I'm ready to get into the main narrative of what we're doing back now. I didn't necessarily need to see... I mean, we did need to see what was going on outside. I want it to drive the narrative of where they go next in the sort of developing the reveals rather than...
Do you mean in the innie world?
Yes, in the innie world. Okay. Yeah. I mean, there is the big question mark, and we talk about Dylan. We see very little of Dylan's home life. Guessing Milchek isn't his husband because he speaks to his wife, and that's not Milchek.
Yeah.
And he says, "What do I tell my wife?" And I'm like, "There goes that
one's gone. Yeah.
And we hear from his wife. I wonder. I imagine on Reddit they are doing analysis of that voice.
Well, we know who the wife is already. So, yeah.
Do we?
If you look at IMDb, the wife was announced.
Okay.
The person playing the wife was announced, much as other people have been announced. Like, I knew Bob Balaban was going to be in it, for example.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it's not a secret.
Is it an interesting person, or
it's a fun person? It's a
right.
good person.
Okay,
you will. Yeah, you're like,
but
it's not a secret.
But what I'm saying is, it's not the woman who's with the headset. Who's
no.
Yeah, okay, that's fine.
No, and it's not Milchek.
Yes, yeah.
Milchek in his motorbike, and his leather jacket and his helmet.
His cool helmet.
He's so but so evil at the same time. Like Jamal Tillman, he is running away with like the star of this show. He's in nearly every scene because he's going from house to house in the dark, and then with his pineapples, bringing people comfort in inverted commas.
Yeah, and I think this is going to be a breakout performance for him, obviously, but I think this could be his season to really sort of push for the Emmys next year. And can we talk about the new titles?
Yeah, go on. What do you think? Why?
Titles are new.
They're quite. It's very. Horror infused, isn't it? There's more to them. We see other people in the titles. Like first season titles were just Mark S. Mark Scout going about his way, but now we are seeing whether that is part of the narrative, or whether it is part of just wanting to include more characters in them. We didn't have titles last week, and I do wonder if it was just that they weren't finished yet. Okay, yeah.
Because I don't see anything in there that would have spoiled anything last week. Anything. If that's
okay, right. The only thing that really puts me off the titles, and this is obviously a very personal thing, is there are a lot of
baby images
in there, and that makes me go, oh no, where are we going? I mean, it may just be it's Eleanor, because there is a baby in the show. I mean, it's not a real baby. Every time that baby's on screen, I wish it was real because it's so obviously a doll that they're using, and I know they're using it because that's better, but it is very obvious to me that doll is a doll.
Do you know what makes it most obvious to me?
What?
The fact that you say every time, that's not a real doll.
Yes, that might do it.
So we've got Mark S. Stroke Mark Scout, who wakes up at Devon's house and Rickon's house.
Yeah, but also Persephone. So she says, "What's my name?" And he says Persephone, and then she says, "Can you spell it?" And he's like, "No." So what's going on there?
Do you know what that hadn't twigged?
Like, why is she called Devon when her name's Persephone? Because it's not like a shorter version of it. Maybe it's a middle name. I don't know. Yeah. Anyway,
I'm pointless
She's- I
tonight.
really
We did see singers that go by their middle name. So
Yeah.
people do.
Yeah.
People do. Obviously, Milchek comes over. They've had a discussion, and his final words of "she's alive." They're all kind of saying, "Oh well, I mean the baby," because
it
did
makes
that."
sense.
But the subtlety of the acting, where they, at least Devon and Mark, are looking at each other, knowing that it's something else, whilst not actually talking about it. That was the feeling that I got.
Really, I wasn't convinced that Mark thought it was about Gemma. Mark just seemed to be like, well, of course it is, and I'm just holding this picture. Of course it's about the baby.
I didn't feel that.
Okay.
I felt there was some... I was about to do some traitor spoilers, which isn't... In the traitors, people say things, and you feel that they are getting on a different point, and I felt that was the case in this. One point I'd like to make is Persephone is absolutely badass.
Yeah.
She puts Milchek in his place and proper fist bump. Obviously, the thing that you see with Mark is the key is to get him back into Lumen.
Yeah, and that the idea of why are they so insistent on him going back in when we see with the other characters we'll get to, when we see with them that he just fires them.
Yes.
Because that's what Kia told him to do.
Mark was the enfant terrible who came in and took to it straight away, and we knew that he had the best numbers from the start, and that's why he's got this promotion.
And he built that team.
Yeah, but there's something weird about that, isn't there? Obviously, there is the interaction with Mrs. Coble at the end, which...
Yeah. Brilliant work from Patricia Arquette again. Get my teeth in.
And that's why I think that they were the subtleties of the discussion about Gemma.
Okay.
In that he's shouting, "Do you know something about Gemma?"
Yeah. But I think it comes from her face. I think it comes from her hesitation in the car. That it's almost like the meeting of two minds, and that she's making that face. He's got and it's her reaction that leads him into that final outburst. I think it takes him all the way through that episode talking to Devon and just having that sort of grind away at him.
Helly next.
Yep.
The apology video. I mean, we've all seen them online.
We've seen them before.
Yeah. It felt more satire on the world than it was sort of any point
It
about
didn't
the
make
show.
Yeah, I agree.
But yeah, do love a fake insincere apology.
I was on medication and I had something to drink. We've all done that before. We've all done. I've been taking this I'm on antibiotics.
I mean, I've never done that before.
Oh, okay.
I often I admit that I'm when I'm a lout or taken over by a severed version of
person,
myself. Yeah.
What did you think about the interaction with her dad? Did you catch what he said? I thought he said something like fettered moment or fated moment, but I didn't catch it.
I remember it. I don't remember what he said.
He's clearly evil to her.
A horrible
and
man.
She's scared of him.
And he's a powerful man, so I imagine you quite often, when you get to this, you don't get to this position without bullying a few people quite often.
Yeah.
I really like her accomplice in this.
So I'm gonna I've got his name out because I've got to get it right, and he is one of my celebrity crushes. So let me get it right.
Of course he is.
Of course he is. So his name in the show is Mr. Drummond, and he is played by Olafur Darri Olafsson.
What Scandi drama have you seen him in then?
I have seen. I'm gonna find it because I can't. It was. I think it was a one night. It was one night. He was a policeman in it. And I've completely forgotten what it was called. I'm Entrapped.
Okay.
Entrapped. And yeah, it was. He was. He played Andre Olafsson. And that was in 2022, so it was quite a few years ago. But yeah, it was one of those Scandi Nordic crime noir.
Walter Presents.
Yeah, and he plays this genial. I think he was a bereaved husband, or he was divorced, or he was on his own. They had a kid. It was and he was sorting out crime. Anyway,
one of yours, as I would put it.
It was lovely, and I really liked him. He's very different in this. He's he is, like you say, the man in the shadows sitting there at the diner at the end of the table. I'm intrigued to know more about him. Is he a member of the board? Is he security? You know, what is he like Natalie, a sort of peripheral character?
I took him to be security on the fact that he came in before Helly's dad. Whether he's, bodyguard or whatever, but clearly he's some sort of security detail. And the fact that he removes himself from conversations when Helly meets Mrs. Coble, he removes himself to the other side of the table, so like he's there for whatever reason,
like an enforcer sort of person, or a
bodyguard.
Spy, or yeah. Well, I hope we get to see more of him because he's such a good actor. I think he deserves more.
I bet you do. Yes. I hope you see more of him too.
So on Helly, we see her going back into the lift, but there's such a reticence, isn't there? When they say in the boardroom, Heliar will return, and when she's got her dress on and her Heliar clothes, and she's walking up to that lift. I really did feel quite sorry for her because it's enforcement, isn't it? She's been enforced to go back into this role.
Yeah.
And yet at the same time, she's watching and rewatching the clip of her kissing Mark. And you feel, direction is it's not subtle.
No.
You see the eyeball, you see the everything, the pupil dilating. And you wonder whether she's ever had a romantic relationship outside, as an outie. Because if this is a cult, I'm quite happy to call it that. Lumen Industries, all the work that they're doing.
I don't think it's controversial to do that.
I don't think it's controversial. And she's at the highest level of the cult with family connections. Has she been allowed to fraternize with people? Has she had an external life? And that's what it sort of said to me. But
equally,
then,
if I'd kissed someone and not remembered, I'd quite like to see the video of it. I think it'd be funny. Yeah.
But to see what you in inverted commas is behaving in a different environment,
because there is the nature and nurture thing of it. This is what Helly would become if she didn't have that father, the weight of the father bearing down on her. She's clearly a strong individual, as we know from season 1, but she's expressed it in so many different ways in Innie than on her outie.
It just quickly before we move on, it really reminded her reactions really reminded me of Blade Runner, the woman character that Deckard, I cannot remember her name now. It's going to absolutely do my nut in because I know Blade Runner so well, but right now I can't think of it. When he's testing her to find out if she's a replicant or not, and you're looking it up for me now.
Yeah.
And the actress as well, and it's gonna go.
Sean Young.
That's it, Sean Young. And what's the character's name?
Rachel,
of course it is. Really reminded me of Rachel in Blade Runner. I don't know if that was a purposeful thing or not, but just I suppose it's the blankness of the face.
Yes.
But yeah, what did you think when she was walking? Do you think she's gone? Well, she has gone into the lift, hasn't she? It is Heliar in there, isn't it?
I'm not convinced.
You're not convinced?
I heard this theory on. I'm trying to avoid all theories, but I did listen to the Cinemile.
Yeah.
Talk about this. And it was something that Kathy raised on that episode, and it makes sense to me once you look at it. And I'm kind of annoyed that I didn't click onto it, but
and you know what? It's everywhere. I could not avoid. Even if we didn't listen to all the podcasts, it was all over the papers.
And I don't mind knowing those sort of theories where going through Lost without the theory that they're dead, even though I never believed that at any point. It's kind of part of the culture of it and everything. I kind of wanted them to do reveal either way here or there, just so that it was kind of put to bed and we can move on.
But she does get in the lift.
She gets in the lift and she gets in the severed lift.
Yeah.
But who's to say if you can deactivate Severance for a journey?
Do you think for that? Yeah.
I mean, I don't know.
Or that they've.
I'm trying to work out the mechanics of a fictional lift.
Well, I was wondering whether they might have but I suppose they say that you can't unsever yourself, if you know what I mean. You can't Petey did last series, because obviously that has terrible
Petey was quite unsevered by the end when Miss Coble visited him at the funeral parlour.
I'm intrigued because I never thought it wasn't Heliar. So many negatives, but I thought it was Heliar. I watched parts of the episode again and I just felt it was her. Okay. So if it isn't her, I'll be quite disappointed because I feel it's a bit of a cheat.
So my notes for Dylan is probably not married to Milchek.
Yeah, you're right on that one.
I really want to know. I feel Dylan might be like the Hurley thing in Lost. I know that we keep on going back to Lost and we need to stop doing that.
No, I'm quite happy.
Like the way Hurley was almost like a comedy character for so long, and then when you saw more into his life, it was key that he was key to the entire thing.
Yeah.
I'm sure that is the case. But I feel his interview today, obviously he's fired, he goes to an interview at Great Doors.
Great Doors.
Interesting visuals of...
Yeah.
So the actor is Adrian Martinez, who plays Mr. Saliba, who's interviewing him, and I'm not sure whether it was on purpose that they had someone who visually is
it must be
very similar to Dylan.
The mirroring is just,
It can't be by accident.
Yeah.
And then he finds out he's a Seven employee and terminates the interview there and then.
There's a discrimination element.
Yeah, and I'm sure that is just some sort of background, sowing the seeds for this is how people are on the outside.
Yeah.
And we've seen it a bit at the dinner party where people are asking Mark questions and things like that. Oh, sorry, the no dinner party. As well in the first season,
You're not allowed to eat.
Yeah, there's obviously more to Dylan's character, and I'm sure that there is reasons why we're not seeing more of his home life.
Yeah, I wonder if it's just a slow reveal, and like you say, you hear the wife on the phone, but you're not sure what she looks like or anything. But I think they're now digging into, he's asking about health insurance. What's my wife? Do we need more baby wipes?
Yes.
The child that ran into the cupboard would not, I suspect, have still required baby wipes. It's
but
the way
we know that he
it.
has more children. I think Milchek says he has 3, I think.
But I'm not entirely convinced that I believe everything that Milchek says. So
No.
I was still thinking, maybe he did only have the one. And it's the fact he went off to get them, even though they didn't need them. And I wondered whether they were going to show us that he was maybe finding solace in, sitting in his car, if he's me, eating a load of biscuits, or doing something else to just sort of like de-stress because it seemed that he needed to go somewhere.
Yes.
Or even meeting someone to talk about what had happened, because we see Irving on the phone in a phone booth at one point, and who is he talking to? So I wondered whether they were just sowing the seeds there of Dylan going off somewhere when he didn't really need to go somewhere, and what's he going off to do?
Okay, I took Irving being on the phone in a very different way, but okay.
All right.
Do you want to go to Irving?
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah. So I don't think there's a lot to say about it. Like, we see him meet Mr. Milchek. He is fired.
I love that scene.
Oh.
No, not because he's fired, but because Outie Irving knows what he is doing. He's just like Innie Irv, but with more knowledge of life.
Yeah.
And I love John Turturro's characterization of both of the Irvings. I think he's such a powerful actor and character actor, and every time Irving's on the screen, I'm so glad they don't give us much of him.
Yeah.
Because I think the more I know, the more it kind of sort of takes away the joy of the glimmer of him every now and again, and what he's doing. And he's clearly got a lot going on. We found that out in the finale of series 1, that he's got all of these numbers and all of these people, and he must have realised what's happening when he's backing on Bert's door and he's got the stuff in his pocket. But you're right, we don't get a lot to go off.
I took the phone call as, and this may be very, very wrong, I took the phone call as Irving going for a casual sexual encounter in the way that you used to, or as I understand it, used to finding a card in a phone box.
Oh, wow, really?
Because, and I took that as part of the retro styling of the show, in that you don't just go on Grindr or whatever. You go and you find
I suppose people do go on the internet every now and again, don't they? Because Mark's looking up but you took it as
that was my understanding from the scene. It wasn't like that's what they're indicating.
I didn't get that at all. I thought he was contacting someone in secret to talk about what was going on at Lumen.
I could absolutely have misread it, because obviously there's more going on with Irv in the conspiracy inside the company than
and
not.
Then Bert's in the car, but looking, I mean, Christopher Walken can do a quite scary look, can't he?
It reminded me of like the face of Pazuzu.
Yes, I know. I was scared. I was genuinely scared, because I thought it was going to be my old friend from the Scandi Noir Droppers. I thought it was just him, like, following him along and seeing what's happening.
Yeah.
But no, it was, but yeah, that I mean, it's a direction, isn't it? It's that darkness and light coming together. Fascinating.
Yeah. I mean, so what? I mean, what do you think that means? Because is it that we saw Bert leaving the company at the end of season 1?
Yeah.
But is he more into this than we think he is?
That we think it. Does he remember more than?
Or is he just trying to work out who this tit is who was banging on his door and then said, "Oh, sorry, nothing." And...
Well, we don't know what the conclusion of that is, because whereas with everyone else, you see exactly from the moment. We don't see. You hear it a lot. Each episode we've seen so far, I mean, only 2, but each episode starts with that. Helly's given a speech, but on the door.
Yeah.
But then we don't cut to that. So have they had a conversation? Well, you would imagine so, wouldn't you?
If someone's banging on my door, I'm going to go out and see what the hell's going on. Yeah. Even if it's just, oh, sorry, I don't know what happened.
That's then intrigued Bert, and he wants to understand what's happened. But Irv wouldn't know why he was there either, apart from the fact that he's got a map with Bert's name on, with a big cross for here we are. And
he would presumably know who Bert is by the fact that he's doing this research clearly and has a map with his, sort of his outie has a map in his house. So it's safe to assume that he could know what Bert looks like and that he is at this house.
Yeah.
But excited to know a bit more about that.
Yeah. I haven't got a clue. I mean, as per usual, I haven't got a clue where it's going to go next. So we're going to get a little bit. Maybe next time it's going to be a bit of innie, bit of outie. And I wonder whether should we finish with discussing what's been tantalisingly left in the air, which is this idea of Mark needs to finish Cold Harbour.
Yes.
Like, why is it Mark? Surely there are other people who are good at their job. And what is Cold Harbour? We have
the 3 people who we see very briefly going in, and then Bob Balaban coming out.
Fuck you, Lumen.
Yeah.
Which I thought was a lovely throwback.
And there is 100% a reason why those actors have been hired. You don't hire Bob Balaban and Alia Shawkat for such a small role.
And the other fellow who we can't remember.
Yeah, I don't remember his name, but he's not somebody who I'm immediately. He'd definitely be listening. Definitely.
Because they're clearly giving us something. We've never heard of this Cold Harbour before. It's new for series 2, and it's making it's clearly there to make us go, right, what is that? And there's clearly going to be an answer to it.
Does it indicate that the things that they are cleaning up and removing and cleansing the data of are directly related to Mark?
I think there's got to be there was the final flashy image that we didn't talk about last time. That final flash of Gemma's face, but looking very different from her view as like Mrs. Casey.
Yeah.
Just actually looking more like the Gemma that Mark would have had in his photos.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't mention it because I thought it was just a sort of a visual choice, and I didn't think it was necessarily. Yeah, I thought it was just to remind you of her rather than anything integral to the plot. But I now understand that a lot of people have been going mad about it. Although I've not read anything.
No, and I've not gone and like looked at the photo or anything like that because I don't want to.
A lot of people are going to be shouting at us.
I know.
It says in there this data exactly that they are cleansing up is memories in Mark's head.
Clearly to do with her, and there is clearly and we know that Miss Casey has gone down to the testing floor, so we know that she's there. But what is good, and we got a little bit more information about her death, and as far as I took it, and I found it hard to understand what he was saying to Devon, but I think what he mentioned was something about fire and saying, look, if Rickon had been in a fire and you had to do the so I'm presuming that she was in a crash, there was a fire, the body was burnt. He said he went and identified the body, but perhaps it would have been easy to make it look like it. It would be easy to pull the wool over someone's eyes. Is that what I'm?
But they would have to mimic things like, well, they wouldn't have to mimic dental records, would they? Because they could.
But you see, we wouldn't, would they? It just have to look enough like her to,
And anyway. Get a fake dentist to say that this is the dental record.
Let's move on for this. I don't. I don't want to dwell on this, but I think that's where it's. I think that's where it's going.
Yeah.
Is that he thought he identified her. Potentially it wasn't her.
Are we going to watch The Traitors now?
Yes, Mark, we're going to watch The Traitors now. It's we're recording on the Friday night, and it's the finale of the UK Traitors. So my phone has been flashing up. You're ignoring all your texts and emails.
I've switched
and all
off
the
my
things.
phone.
Yeah, I've turned mine over, and but Mark keeps looking at it. It's sort of like, will you stop it just in case something comes up? But yeah, thank you everyone for listening. It's been fab to get all your messages as well. I've so enjoyed talking to everyone about all of your ideas around the show, particularly as Mark doesn't want to talk about all the theories. So I get to talk to other people about the theories, which
I want
is
to talk
fun.
about my theories.
Oh, sorry. You want to talk about your theories, you just don't want to hear anyone else's.
Isn't that the fun part of watching these shows?
Okay.
Rather than blindly following what's on Reddit, so you can have The Traitors. Groupthink. We've seen this before.
Thank you, everyone. We'll see you next week. Hope
See
you
you
enjoyed
next
that
week.
episode.
Bye-bye.